British Prime Minister David Cameron says the UK will never give in to terror after a soldier is hacked to death in London.
Community tensions run high as London police investigate the soldier's brutal murder. Al-Qaeda suicide bombers attack an army base and a French-run uranium mine in Niger.
IMF chief Christine Lagarde is grilled by a court in Paris over a payment to a high-profile French businessman.
European shares dive in a global market slump as investors take fright over poor Chinese data and US-triggered growth fears.
British Prime Minister David Cameron says the UK will never give in to terror after a soldier was hacked to death in London. He described the street attack as deeply shocking after chairing an emergency security meeting in Downing Street. The two suspects reportedly converted to Islam from Christian immigrant backgrounds.
This country will be absolutely resolute in its stand against violent extremism and terror. We will never give in to terror or terrorism in any of its forms. Second, this view is shared by every community in our country. This was not just an attack on Britain and on the British way of life. It was also a betrayal of Islam and of the Muslim communities who give so much to our country. Thank you.
Flowers at the scene where the British soldier died near the Woolwich Army Barracks in southeast London. The victim was 25-year-old drummer Lee Rigby, who was serving with the Royal Regiment of Fusiliers. He leaves behind a 2-year-old son. Police are still trying to establish what happened on Wednesday afternoon. Witnesses say two men used a car to run down the victim, whom they then attacked with knives and a machete, shouting "Allahu Akbar, God is great." Around 20 minutes later, an armed response unit arrived and shot the men, but not before one of the suspects was filmed by a passer-by justifying his actions.
I apologise that women had to witness this today, but in our land, our women have to see the same. You people will never be safe. Remove your governments, they don't care about you.
The killing sparked a terror alert with suspicions raised that this was a possible jihadist attack. One of the alleged killers is reportedly 28-year-old Michael Adebolajo, British but of Nigerian descent.
So you can all live in peace.
Muslim leaders in the UK have strongly condemned the attack, declaring it was not carried out in the name of Islam.
What we've seen is a ratcheting up of tensions. We've seen hysteria about Muslims and Islam, fear and hatred and xenophobia against foreigners and immigrants. And in that political cauldron and in that vacuum, these kind of sparks can cause real damage, and that is the danger, that communities do not turn on themselves.
But as police investigate whether the killing was part of a wider terrorist plot or carried out by so-called lone wolves, there have already been 2 attacks on mosques in the southeast of England. The British National Party has issued anti-immigration statements, and last night members of the far-right English Defence League clashed with police.
Enough's enough. Our message is enough. We have weak leaders, weak police. Our police and our leaders tiptoe around this issue. This issue is political Islam. It's political Islam that's spreading across this country.
The woman who talked to the attackers has appeared on British television. She's originally from France and is a Cub Scout leader. She explained what happened.
Well, I saw a man on the road, obviously injured, and a car badly crashed. So I assume it was a road accident. When I approached the body, there was a lady cradling him, and then the guy, the most excited one of the two, said, "Don't go too close to the body." I thought, okay. And because I was down, I could see a revolver, a butcher's knife, and do you know this most axe the butchers have to cut?
Yes,
that?
yes.
Yeah, that's what he had, and blood all over him. And I thought, what the heck, what happened there? And I thought, okay, obviously he's a bit excited, and the thing was just to talk to him. He said, "Don't touch, I killed him." And I said, "Why?" He said, "He's a British soldier. He killed people, he killed Muslim people in Muslim countries, and they have nothing to do here." So I tried to make him talk about why he felt.
Were you not scared for yourself in that situation?
No.
Why not?
Better me than a child, because unfortunately there were more and more mothers with children stopping around by, so it was even more and more important that I talked to him and then I asked him what he wanted.
Islamist suicide bombers have struck an army barracks and a French-run uranium mine in Niger. In Agadesh in the north, at least 20 soldiers were killed and 16 others injured when the bombers attacked at dawn. In Arlit, one person died and several others were injured in a car bomb attack at a uranium mine operated by the French nuclear group Areva. A West African offshoot of Al-Qaeda's North African wing has claimed responsibility. The group was part of a loose Islamist coalition which seized control of neighbouring North Mali last year before being ousted by a French-led offensive in January.
Stockholm is blazing with youth anger. A fourth night of rioting in the Swedish capital has seen groups of people, many of them young, setting fire to cars, breaking windows and clashing with authorities. The violence, which began in the deprived northern suburb of Husby on Sunday, has spread to several areas throughout the city. No arrests were made on Wednesday night, but a police spokesman says it's now time to clamp down. We're much more on the offensive now to prevent and stop this. And if that's not enough, arrest people. Why have you chosen this strategy, a reporter asks. We had been trying to avoid confrontations, but we were often being lured into situations where stones were thrown at us. The authorities say they don't know what's behind the violence, although youth unemployment and resentment among asylum seekers have been suggested as possible triggers. The unrest began days after police officers shot dead a man in Husby who'd reportedly threatened to kill them.
IMF chief Christine Lagarde has been questioned by a magistrate over her role in a payout to a French businessman. As finance minister in 2007 under Nicolas Sarkozy, she decided to use arbitration to settle a legal battle between the state and Bernard Tapie. With interest, the award he ended up receiving amounted to more than 400 million euros. Sources close to the IMF board say they're not worried about the case and are confident that Lagarde didn't profit from it. Any indictment would undermine the role of Christine Lagarde as managing director of the IMF, our reporter says. It would be further trauma for the institution 2 years after the scandal of Dominique Strauss-Kahn.
Two French heads of the IMF in a row in legal scandals of different kinds begins to reflect embarrassingly on their country of origin. Christine Lagarde, when she was shortlisted for the job after Dominique Strauss-Kahn resigned in disgrace, did mention there was a risk of her past career resurfacing, but she got the post anyway. She still has the French and IMF authorities' trust, they say, even as a 20-year-old case catches up with her. Prosecutors have suggested that Lagarde, who at the time headed the finance ministry, was partly responsible for irregularities which could lead to charges of misuse of public funds. In 1993, businessman Bernard Tapie entered government but had to resign when he was convicted for match fixing as president of the Marseille Football Club and sent to prison. After his sale of sports group Adidas that year through the Crédit Lyonnais Bank, Tapie accused the partly state-owned institution of defrauding him by intentionally undervaluing Adidas at the time of the sale and argued that the state should compensate him. The Lagarde investigation centres on her 2007 move to ask a panel of judges to arbitrate in the Tapie dispute with Crédit Lyonnais, which in the meantime had collapsed. Tapie's arguments were upheld by the arbitration panel and he was paid millions of euros out of state coffers. In return for Tapie's supporting Nicolas Sarkozy in the 2007 presidential election, prosecutors working for the French National Court of Justice suspect he received favourable treatment. Among the prickly questions being asked are why the regular public justice system didn't handle Tapie's claim, since public money was at stake, whether the arbitrators who were chosen were friends of his, and what Lagarde knew. She didn't take action when the panel made its controversial ruling, although she could have. Lagarde's court appearance comes a day after the first woman to run an organisation considered the pillar of the international financial system was named the world's 7th most powerful woman by Forbes magazine. She has repeatedly said the probe into the Tapi case has never interfered with her IMF duties, but if the court decided to prosecute, she and the IMF could be forced to reassess. Nothing in her contract says she would have to resign, but it does say she must strive to avoid even the appearance of impropriety.
Merci.
A Russian court has refused to grant parole to a jailed member of the Pussy Riot punk band. According to supporters, the judge ruled against Maria Alohina because she broke prison rules. The breaches included not making her bed and writing letters during mealtimes. Thousands of Italian students have sailed to Palermo on so-called ships of lawfulness to mark the 21st anniversary of the killing of an anti-mafia magistrate. Giovanni Falcone, his wife and 3 bodyguards were killed when their car was blown up on a road near Capaci. Hundreds of people have been evacuated from their homes after heavy rain caused flooding in southeastern Norway. In Nesbyen, a mudslide reached homes and filled some basements with water. Roads and rail services have also been affected by the bad weather. Singer and songwriter George Moustaki has died after a long illness. He was 79. Greek-born Moustaki arrived in Paris in 1951 and will be remembered by many for his songs celebrating liberty and his collaborations with Edith Piaf.